breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm up for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Chris Cichon. He does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love, and really is Mr. Everywhere when it comes to all things Baltimore. We're going to be chatting with him about what we've seen out of the Orioles here in the last few weeks, the entirety of the American League East, and just some of his takeaways from the early part of the season. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, the mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but everything is powered by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they're making sure that bettors are able to access all their funds all day long, and absolutely, they make sure that you're able to get cashback rewards when you utilize Edge Boost. When you go to edgeboost.bet, type in the promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Chicago Cubs do a nice job getting the job done against the Detroit Tigers. This by a count of 6-1, and for the Cubbies, they have actually been one of your best over teams in all of baseball. They've been supplanted by the Sacramento A's with regards to the top over rate in all of baseball, but still hitting at just below 58% to the over this year, 34 overs, 25 unders, and 5 pushes, as they got a really nice start here from Jameson Taillon. 1 run allowed over the course of 7 innings. Caleb Theobar, Danny Palencia both led a scoreless inning from there, and it was a lot of solo jobs for the Chicago Cubs. Michael Busch, 10th home run season. Seiya Suzuki, OIC, home runs 15 and 16 of the campaign. Pete Crow Armstrong, 17th home run season. And then you had Mr. Matt Shaw get a second home run in the campaign, as for Tyler Holton, the opener, he gave up a solo home run in his 1 1/3 innings. For Cadero Montero, well, he gave up 3 bombs, 4 runs in total in 5 2/3 innings. From there, you had a solo home run given up in an inning by Chase Lee before you got a scoreless inning, John Brebbia, and it was a lot of low-scoring games in baseball on Saturday, as well as you did see a pair of 2-1 games involving teams in the National League. The Dodgers, they fall to the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 2-1. And no fault whatsoever to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 9 punch-outs, 6 scoreless innings, did his part, and then Alex Vesia, he gives you a scoreless inning. But Ben Kasparis gives up 5 hits, 2 runs in his inning of work, so that was a little bit of an issue. And for the LA Dodgers, they go 0 of 12 with men in scoring position, stranding 12 men on base. They had their chances. Eric Fetty whopped 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Steven Matz, he goes for 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Kyle Leahy, scoreless inning. Ryan Elsley does give up a run in his inning of work, but struck out the side. And the Cardinals, they do find a way to persevere, and they do get the job done. And then for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they get a 2-1 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. As for the Phillies, they got a nice start out of Ranger Suarez. 2 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings. Does give up a home run to Henry Davis, 4th home run season, but Andrew Heaney was even better. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. That was a solo bomb to Kyle Schwarber to lead off the game, and that was number 20 of the campaign, actually batted number 2, but still, first inning. And then from there, for the Pirates, you had Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, David Bennar. I'll give you a scoreless inning, and for the Phillies, Taijuan Walker was able to close things out. He was able to give them a scoreless inning, but not enough offense to be able to get the job done there. For the Blue Jays, they do find a way to get the job done over the Minnesota Twins, this by a count of 5-4, and for the Blue Jays, Kevin Gausman, not necessarily supreme in this one. 3 runs allowed over the course of his 6 innings. Does give up a home run to Mr. Matt Wallner, 4th home run season. Then too little, too late. Cody Clemens with the team down 2 runs. He gets a solo job off of Jeff Hoffman. 6th home run season for Hoffman, gives up that solo home run in an inning of work. Chad Green along with Braden Fisher both supply a scoreless inning. And George Springer having himself a nice year. 10th home run season that comes off of Griffin Jackson. You had a little bit earlier on in the game, Tyler Heineman, one of the 500 Heinemans out there in the big leagues. He goes deep off of Chris Paddock. That's the second of the campaign. Paddock, another nice start. 11th straight start with 3 runs, earned runs allowed or fewer. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. From there, Louis Varland, a scoreless inning, but bullpen had a rough day. Yohan Duran gives up a run in an inning, and Griffin Jackson gives up that home run to Springer. 2 runs in total over the course of his inning of work. You saw the suspended game between the Reds and the Diamondbacks go the way of the Reds. 4-3 the final. As for the Diamondbacks, you had Eduardo Rodriguez previously give up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, and then you also had Mr. Christian Mena be able to give an inning, but he gave up a home run in the game before it was suspended. Christian Encarnacion Strand, third home run of the campaign. TJ Friedel, his fifth, and Nick Lodolo had given up 3 runs over the course of his 6 innings, with Ketel Marte, the Marte Party, 12th home run of the season, and Geraldo Perdomo, 7th home run of the season. Then, when things kicked back up, you had Juan Murillo give you an out of the bullpen before Jalen Beeks was able to fill 5 outs out of the bullpen after Murillo had given up 3 walks. And Ryan Thompson, he pitches the 9th inning, and then he comes back for the 10th, gives up an Encarnacion Strand RBI double to be able to walk off the game. And for the Reds, their bullpen pitching held up Graham Ashcraft. Not a load of Ashcraft. 2 scoreless innings, Emilio Pagan and Tony Santillan. They both give you a scoreless inning, and then that led into the full game that we saw on Saturday with the Cincinnati Reds absolutely mollywhopping the Arizona Diamondbacks. 13-1 the final. Ryan Nelson, he was nicknamed Hickory in this game because he got smoked, giving up 7 runs over the course of 3 innings. He gives up a bomb in this one to Mr. Christian Encarnacion Strand, who's had himself a nice weekend, 4th home run of the campaign. And then Gavin Lux off of Kendall Graveman, a grand slam, 2nd home run of the season for Graveman. Well, he just dug a grave for his ERA. He gave up 6 runs in his inning work. From there, you did have Jeff Brigham give you an out of the bullpen, scoreless. Jose Herrera, the backup catcher, was able to lend a scoreless inning. And then you had Christian Montas de Osa. Hopefully I said that correctly. 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Congratulations to him. And for the Reds, Nick Martinez had things on lockdown. Gave up a solo home run to Eugenio Suarez, 17th home run of the season, but that's all you give up in 6 innings of work. And then from there, you had Brent Suter, Joe La Sorsa, and Lyon Richardson. I'll give you a scoreless inning. For the Astros, they do find a way to be able to persevere in multiple innings. They get the job done 5-3 in 10 innings. As for the Houston Astros, another relatively rock-solid start from Hunter Brown. The command was wonky. 5 walks allowed in 5 1/3 innings, but just 1 run allowed. Steven O'Kirk from there gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Sean Dubin gives up a solo home run in his 2 innings. As going deep for the Cleveland Guardians, Jose Ramirez, his 12th home run of the season, but Cleveland stranded 12 men on base in this one, and that was in support of Gavin Williams, who gave up 3 runs over the course of his 6 innings, as Yanier Diaz gets his 8th home run of the season. From there, you did have Jacob Junis, Cade Smith, Emmanuel Clase, all give you a scoreless inning, but Hunter Gaddis in the 10th inning, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned. We have not seen a lot of that thus far this season. And for the Houston Astros, Bennett Sosa, Josh Hader, scoreless 9th and 10th innings to be able to get the job done there. Kansas City Royals have been one of your best under teams in all baseball this year. 25 overs, 38 unders, and a push entering into Saturday, and they notched another one on Saturday, 4-1. They do fall to the Chicago White Sox as Michael Wacha. He turned into the dying Pac-Man voice. Michael, Waka, 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 3 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, including a pair of bombs, as you had Chase Meredith be able to get his 2nd home run of the campaign, and then home run number 4 for Timothy Elko. And for the White Sox, Adrian Hauser continues to be great. I don't know how long lasting this is going to be, but solo home run allowed over the course of 6 innings of work to Vinny Pasquantino, 10th home run season. From there, Cam Bouger, Steven Wilson, Dan Altavilla all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Royals, you did have Steven Cruz lend a scoreless inning, and Trevor Richards, he's been passed around like a basket of breadsticks. He has been everywhere. He gives up a run in his inning of work. The Miami Marlins get their first win of the week after they were swept by the Colorado Rockies, 11-10 over the Tampa Bay Rays. After, I don't think that they scored 11 runs in that series against the Colorado Rockies, as AC Sanchez was able to supply the boom, 5th home run of the campaign. Not a savory start for Taj Don't call Milton Bradley. Looked more like Milton, giving up 7 runs in 4 innings. And then Mason Montgomery, well, he jacked up his ERA, giving up 3 runs in an inning. But then from there, the rest of the bullpen was pretty solid. Eric Orsay, Kevin Kelly, Manuel Rodriguez, Pete Fairbanks, all on his scoreless inning, and Garrett Clevenger gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning. As for the Rays, they were having the deep ball going. Brandon Lau, 13th home run of the season. You had Danny Jansen get his 5th home run of the season. Taylor Walsh, he got his 2nd home run of the campaign. And Christopher Morel, home runs number 4 and 5 of the campaign, as Ryan Weathers was not long for this game. He could not weather the storm. 4 runs, 3 of which weren't given up in his 3 innings. Ronnie Enriquez, 2 runs allowed in an inning. You had from there Tyler Phillips give up 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. Anthony Bender allowed a solo home run in 1 2/3 innings, but Calvin Fauché, a scoreless inning. And then you had scoreless 9th and 10th innings out of Cade Gibson to be able to get that one in and be able to get that one to the window. You were able to get this to the window. The Rangers, 5-0 winners over the Washington Nationals. Another under for the Rangers. 20 overs, 43 unders and a push this season, but you had a little bit of hitting for Jacob deGrom, who went 7 scoreless innings, 8 punch-outs, and then Luke Jackson, Chris Martin, both on a scoreless inning for Washington. Mitchell Parker, not a bad start here. 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in 6 innings. Cole Henry, Andrew Chafin combined for a scoreless inning, but Eduardo Zalazar now rocking a 10 ERA, 3 runs allowed over the course of his inning of work, and Zach Brzezinski, he was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. Now, I do have to do this before the show, cashing out on VSiN, so I'm recording this a little bit in advance, so we are unsure of what we got in terms of Mets versus Rockies, but I will say, if the Rockies won that game, I'd be very, very surprised. Angels versus Mariners, along with the Athletics versus the Orioles. But that said, we are right now doing this as Red Sox versus Yankees is going down 8-3 after 4 innings for the Boston Red Sox. As for the Red Sox, you had Rami Gonzalez go deep off of Ryan Yarbrough, his first home run of the campaign, and for Ryan Yarbrough, he's just having to eat it right now. 8 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, and Austin Wells hit it Wells off of Garrett Crochet, 3-run homer, 7th of the campaign, and Crochet through 3 innings gave up 3 runs, so you were already able to get the over in that one. And for the New York Yankees, they've been such an interesting totals team thus far this season, and doing this as the San Diego Padres and the Milwaukee Brewers are doing battle as well as I record this 1-0 very early on. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been very much an underwhelming season thus far, with darn near 53.5% of games going under the total, as you've got 492 unders to 426 overs. Meanwhile, favorites on the money line hitting at 57.3%, 545 and 406, and over the last 7 days we have seen a lot of favorites fall. 45 and 46 are favorites on the money line, hitting at less than 50%, and over the last 7 days, 51 unders to 38 overs. That's 57.3% to the under. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do take a look at the American League East, the Baltimore Orioles, and so much more with Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Chris Cichon aboard. He does such a great job over at WBAL in Baltimore, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know he's covered a little bit of everything out there at WBAL. News, politics, just fun, frivolous things as well. So you get a little bit of everything from Chris. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at The Big Cheese Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And Chris, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, thank you so much for having me. And yes, was news anchoring this morning at WBAL, and one of the reads we had to do was Orioles hot streak, and that certainly came to an end. So I had to correct that one a little bit, because it was a tough sledding night on Friday night for this Orioles team, who had won 6 in a row, losing to the Sacramento Athletics. But it is an Orioles team that does at least appear to be not floundering as badly as they were at one point of the season.
Yeah, certainly it was very brutal to start off things for this Baltimore Orioles team. They were on a 6-game win streak before they lost that game on Friday against the Athletics. And what do you think the biggest difference has been for this Baltimore Orioles team? Or is it just the fact that maybe there wasn't a lot of differences, but just the fact that these guys were able to get a little bit more locked in, and maybe the bad variance that was there at the beginning part of the season is starting to correct itself?
I think there's a lot of different factors, because they are a hitting team primarily. I mean, at least I thought they were until the middle part of last season, and then the bats were not as consistent. I think about a guy like Adley Rutschman, who went 7 for his last 13 entering Friday, but he's been in the league long enough where if he is not hitting, I mean, at least 250, that's troublesome. I mean, you want to consider him to be one of the best catchers in the league, but he's certainly not on the level of Cal Raleigh, who's got nearly 25 home runs. So, yeah, this is an Orioles team that needs Gunnar Henderson, who hadn't had a home run since the middle of May, who finally got one against the Seattle Mariners on Thursday. That was crucial because he's their best hitter. Jordan Westburg, you'd think he's going to be coming back here somewhat, maybe in the next month or so, hopefully, but just like with Grayson Rodriguez, and I think we have a little bit better timeline with when it comes to Kyle Bradish. He's at least getting, going as far as bullpen sessions are concerned. But I point to hitting as far as getting a little bit better. That's going to be helpful. Not having Ryan Mountcastle 8 to 12 weeks is a power bat that you hate to not have there. But you do have a number of players at AAA Norfolk right now who are gearing up to come back. And I know that Gary Sanchez is part of that group, as is Tyler O'Neill, who was leading off on Saturday night for the Norfolk Tide. So it is a team that's hopefully getting some reinforcements that they can be able to compete with the likes of these teams in the American League East. I know next weekend they've got a home series, Father's Day weekend against the LA Angels. You'd hope that they can maybe sweep that if you're an Orioles fan. One more thing I will point out, bullpen getting a little bit better. A guy like Brian Baker, who got a save on Thursday. Gunnar Henderson specifically said that he is really impressed with him and happy for his development. He needs to be a key contributor to this bullpen because he's almost like the second best reliever now to the Mountain Batista, because Ynier Cano is not on that level, it appears, anymore. And Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto do not inspire a lot of confidence at this point. So it's an Orioles team that's still a lot of things that are up in the air as we enter into the dog days of summer. And I wouldn't call this team any sort of a playoff team. They're probably going to be a seller at the deadline, but they do have some favorable matchups coming up where maybe we'll see if they can, 10 games below 500, give or take. They need to really get it going if they want to advance, again, stay competitive and be in the thick of the playoff race with the addition of wildcard teams. But it still seems unlikely, Greg, when we're talking about a rotation that still rolls out Dean Kramer every fifth day. I mean, for your show, I think you and I feel the same way. You don't have a lot of incompetence when Dean Kramer's taking the mound. Cade Povich has looked better, but he's still not somebody that I think is, a lockdown guy. And Sagano is maybe the guy that's going to be on the trading block as a piece for a contender, being that he's 35 years old and wouldn't be part of. I wouldn't call it a rebuild that the Orioles team would go through, but I don't know that they have a need for a 35-year-old starter. They have Zach Eflin under contract. He's been outstanding. But Sagano maybe is moved if this team does continue to falter. We saw that on Friday. We'll see how the rest of the weekend goes.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but we're going to be seeing Sagano going at it on Sunday. It just feels like his pitching style is very unsustainable because he's giving up a home run after 9 innings, and it's great that he doesn't allow a lot of walks, but he doesn't get a lot of swings and misses. He gives up a lot of contact, quite a bit of his hard contact, and yet he's got like a 3 ERA with a fielding dependent more than a 1.5 higher. I know that you were talking about the Orioles perhaps putting him on the trade block. How much do you think that there might be incentive for them to just try to sell as high as possible on him? Because I just don't know how long-lasting this is going to be.
Oh, I think absolutely. And Michael Elias is somebody who I believe will not necessarily sell all of his pieces if this is going to be a team that is not going to be making any sort of a playoff push. But with the Orioles rotation, I mentioned some of those younger pitchers, and even a guy like Tyler Wells, I don't know that he'll ever really come back and be, formidable at this point. But if you think about this is a rotation too. Are we ever going to see Albert Suarez back this year? I just don't know if you really need him to go out every fifth day if you are in this position where, hey, we can acquire another first baseman if in case Ryan Mountcastle isn't the guy that we necessarily want to go with next season in the future. Ryan O'Hearn, I know he's got an over 400 OBP. He's more of the DH type, can play some first base, but do you want to acquire a younger sort of a first baseman type guy to help round out the infield? Because we know that they've had issues when it comes to offensive production, even though they were, a 100-plus win team in 2023, 91 win team in 2024. But when the postseason came around, they haven't been able to hit. So do you look to maybe get some of these younger hitters because some of the guys that they've got in their system, like the Taron Vavras of the world, he's like a 4A player probably for the rest of his career. And Cedric Mullins, while he has some pop and has some nice moments, he's only getting a little bit older. So you may have to start to kind of consider some of the offensive reinforcements considering. And then Jorge Mateo, he's another one too. You try to get him some at-bats because he can steal, but he hasn't been great in the field and he's not getting on base enough at this point. So again, I think that, it wouldn't hurt them to. And you have Vance Honeycutt coming up. They drafted him. They have guys in the system, but it's a situation where I'd rather trade a guy who's in his middle 30s and a contender is going to need pitching, and you can get some nice or the Orioles can always look at bullpen, because I just was talking about how poorly Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto and guys like Ciano Perez that pitched this year. It's a situation where they need reinforcements there too. The only thing I'd say at this point that the Orioles look like they made the right decisions. Hindsight's 2020. Not, rolling out the entire red carpet for Corbin Burns. We knew that he probably wanted to go back west or to Arizona, but they dodged one there because that would have even been worse if they had a lot of money locked into Corbin Burns and he wasn't going to be pitching the rest of this year and, into next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one where it panned out for them, though. Probably want to do a little bit better than getting Sagano along with Charlie Morton instead, but certainly with Corbin Burns being out for the year, that's a little bit of an issue for them. And just this American League East is very interesting in general, as we do have Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And when it comes to the American League East, as we know, it's been all about the New York Yankees, but it feels like teams not named the New York Yankees, they all have their faults. We just went through many of them that you've got with the Baltimore Orioles, but the Boston Red Sox have really fallen on tough times. 5 games below 500 going into Saturday night for them. The Toronto Blue Jays somehow, some way are 35-20 29, and I'm wondering how they're doing it because they're averaging less than 3.2 runs per game with their offense when they're away from home. The Rays have been able to find a way, and that's the team that I think is most intriguing. I don't know how you take a look at the East, but certainly I think that it's the Yankees division. I think that they're going to be able to get it done, but I just keep looking at this Rays team, and I just continue to think back to when they were really at their peak form in like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and this is very much a throwback to that team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And quick corrector, it does appear that Jordan Westburg is a lot closer than a month, as he's already playing for the Norfolk Tides as well on Saturday night. So, yeah, the reinforcements for offense could be coming for Baltimore. But when we're talking about a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, yes, they have certainly had some guys step up here. This is a team, too, that when they had the big-time contract for Wander Franco, they thought that, hey, this may really set them back because they don't normally spend any sort of money. They had that sort of locked into there. I don't know the specifics of that, but, hey, they've had guys still emerge. And even when they had to trade away Randy Arozarena when they were in a bit of a rebuild mode, it was like, who is going to provide the power? Junior Caminero has done a good job. They have nice contributions from a guy like Jose Caballero who can get on base. He's done a great job as far as being able to get in the scoring position for some of these guys here, like Brandon Lau, who's done a pretty decent job this year. Still don't, love him in clutch spots, but he does provide some pop, and it doesn't appear that his back issue is really flaring up on him. And Yandy Diaz is having himself a nice season too. So, and, if you have Danny Jansen calling a good game, the backstop there, and some of these relievers that the Tampa Bay Rays certainly have, I was wondering if they were going to be a team that might look at the Philadelphia Phillies and say, we'll trade you Pete Fairbanks and send us some prospects back. But they may try to hang on if they think they have a shot at the playoffs here. So, yeah, I think Tampa Bay and Drew Rasmussen has been an outstanding pitcher for this team. I think I've come on the show and blasted Shane Baz a little bit. He needs to be a little bit better. But, if guys like Zach Littell can step up and pitch well for this team, I think the Tampa Bay Rays can be formidable. Looks like Boston, maybe not so much this year. We will see what they're kind of – I wouldn't be any sort of bullish on the Boston Red Sox this year, especially with Alex Bregman hurt at this given time. The Blue Jays burned me on Saturday. I know they got the victory 5-4 against the Twins, but I took them first 5. And they were trailing there. I backed Kevin Gossman against Chris Paddock. But, yeah, this is the Blue Jays team. The Minnesota Twins radio broadcast was being very complimentary of George Springer, and it got me thinking to myself, I'm like, this guy's getting a little bit older. Speaking of 35-year-olds like Sagano, George Springer is 35. But he's still getting it done this year, has sort of had a renaissance, and he's a nice little player at the middle of your lineup because we know Bichette has been leading off there, and he's done a better job this year. And so – yeah, I think the Toronto Blue Jays are a team that can ultimately, Anthony Santander, he's hurt right now. If he can get back into this lineup and if they can get strong performances out of their pitching staff and maybe acquire another arm, I think they can at least be in the mix to be in the wild card, be the second best team in the American League at this point. I just don't see it, as I mentioned, it being the Boston Red Sox, even though, they got Walker Buehler. He didn't look so great the other night. They're going to be an interesting one as well when it comes to the trade deadline because do they move Aroldis Chapman? His stock has been improving there. But, yeah, I think Boston's probably going to be not having it this year, not making any sort of moves this year. I just don't see a path for them. They have some nice hitters, right? Like Duran and Devers, and I don't know. I don't think their pitching's good enough.
Yeah, I'm thinking that there's no path forward for them as well. So we are in agreement there as it is a very interesting AL East in general. And I think the whole American League is very fascinating because I just keep looking at the Tigers and I keep looking at them and thinking that what they're doing right now is very, very for real. Certainly, they could maybe use a number 5 starter as Kadir Montero, even though they've won a lot of his starts. He's been a little bit shaky for them, but the bullpen is rock solid. The offense has really been able to come alive. We want to talk about good managers. AJ Hinch knows what the heck he's doing for the Tigers, and I just look at this landscape in the American League where I don't think that there's arguably that one great team, and right now I'm just saying to myself, why not the Tigers?
Why not the Tigers? And Spencer Torkelson, I think after they won recently, said that they're all best friends. And I don't downplay something like that. I think when you show up to work every day and you're all getting along and you have a winning attitude, that rubs off. And it seems like some of these players that were maybe not necessarily thought of as, and I keep pointing to Javi Baez, but yeah, he was somebody that maybe wasn't going to be anybody in this league anymore, but he's delivered for them. And it helps when you've got a Will Vest. I wasn't expecting him to basically become their lockdown closer, but it seems like he's done that. Is there a better pitcher in baseball than Tariq Skubal? It's hard to argue that. And this is just a team that I think with Detroit is, as you said, A.J. Hinch knows what he's doing, knows what it takes to win. And they do have some guys in their bullpen as well. I think about even like a guy, I don't know if he's Cade Horton or the Cubs' brother, but Tyler Horton. Like, he's a nice little pitcher for them to get to a Will Vest. And this is a Tigers team too, with even like a Jack Flaherty. He's been in big spots. He can pitch in clutch situations, and somebody that I would trust in a playoff spot. I know from covering him here in Baltimore, it wasn't the longest tenure, but he was certainly a solid pitcher for them. And this is a Tigers team that I certainly think, with a guy like Spencer Torkelson and the power that he provides, and we know that how highly he was regarded, number one pick overall. So obviously there was a lot of expectations for him, and he is finally delivering. It just takes a lot for some of these guys in the league, right? So, yeah, this is a Tigers team. Riley Green, too. I have a lot of high hopes for them. Them and Kansas City, I think they're going to be battling once again, because Kansas City has some of these nice pitchers like Chris Bubich and Seth Lugo that, like, pop up out of nowhere. And, like, I thought Jonathan India wasn't really that good to start the year, but he can play, every so often. And you got Bobby Witt hitting homers again. So, yeah, you're going to see a nice little battle between the Royals and the Tigers, with the Twins. I know at least entering Sunday, 4 games above 500, they'll still be fighting there as well, too. They just had a major blow losing Pablo Lopez, I know, to their starting rotation. So, Carlos Correa is constantly hurt. Royce Lewis is constantly hurt. Byron Buxton's constantly hurt. So they need to stay healthy. It's a big if. But, yeah, definitely a fun time in the American League Central with some of these teams emerging and seemingly staying in the mix as far as contenders go.
Yep, no question about it. I think that they're going to be such an interesting team, and so glad that you mentioned with the Royals, if they can just find any sort of offense whatsoever. I think that this team has a nice possibility of being able to make some noise, but again, Bobby Witt Jr. needs a little bit more power as well. He's been moving the line, getting on base, but hasn't been quite what he was a season ago. But Chris with the K, Bubich, all those guys are stepping up, and a man that always steps up and does a great job is you, Chris. I know you're doing great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, covering everything out there in the wonderful city of Baltimore, including a little bit of football is going to be coming up in our lives as well. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Greg, at the Big Cheese Show on X and on Instagram. And we'll be doing some more Ravens stuff. The most recent thing I did was do a stadium tour of the upgrades. They were showing us these clubs that cost $50,000 to be a member of. I don't think, unless I put like a little bit of a flyer on like the Chicago White Sox to win the World Series and then there's an apocalypse and they win it, I'm going to be able to afford anything like that anytime soon. But it still was cool to experience, and I share stuff like that on my social media. But anyway, Greg, thank you again.
Well, you got to experience it for a little bit. Might not be able to get the full experience, but you know what? You got a sneak peek into it, and that's all that matters. And I would say don't bank on the Chicago White Sox winning the World Series, but always bank on great information from Chris. A big thanks to Chris for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VC Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis out of the game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Chris Cichon. He does such great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. Taking a look at this great game of baseball out there. Really covers a little bit of everything out there in the lovely area of Baltimore, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insights, as he did so once again today. Big thanks to Chris for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Sunday as we touch them all. all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do start things off with this first game? This is 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. It is the San Diego Padres are on the road facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. We know that Ryan Burgett is going to be getting the start for the Padres. It was looking like Aaron Savali was going to begin the start for the Brewers at first. Now it appears to be Freddie Peralta, and this number has went all over the place. The initial opener with Freddie Peralta was -170. It's now down to a -128 at the lone book that has it listed. Total is 8. The over is -115. The under is -105. And for the Padres, they opened up at a +154, now at a +116. The market doesn't know whether it's going to be Aaron Savali or if it's going to be Freddie Peralta. Right now, ESPN is rolling with Freddie Peralta. And if it is Peralta, I set them on the money line at a -147. So I would be downgrading it by 20 cents if it would be Aaron Savali. And with Freddie Peralta on the bump, I set my total at 8.4. We'll be going north of an 8.5 if it is going to be Aaron Savali. And for Peralta, if he is indeed the guy, which it looks like he is going to be, he's been having a little bit of issue with regards to his strikeout numbers, which sounds strange because he's still getting 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been rock solid, but I mean, that's actually a career low for him. 9.5 strikeouts per 9, never has been below 9.9. It's just been laboring in some of these starts. 3.7 walks per 9 innings, a rock solid 292 ERA, but the fielding independent of a 397 leaves something to be desired. He's given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts. Meanwhile, you've got the young gun in Burgett, who he at the minor league level was a starter, and he's made a few appearances here at the bigs. He came out of the bullpen 4 times in his last start. It was his first career start. Gave up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings on the road against the San Francisco Giants. He's not a guy that's going to blow you away with strikeout numbers, as he's won 9 innings and he's gotten 4 strikeouts here at the big league level. And if you take a look at his minor league numbers, he was getting closer to about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he was also giving up right around about 3.5 walks per 9. Did a good job of being able to mitigate hard contact, and now goes up against a Brewers team that they're not necessarily slugging out the deep ball a ton, but at the same time, what they are getting is a lot of guys who are able to move the line and a lot of small ball. You've got 4 separate guys who have been able to supply at least 10 stolen bases this year: Christian Yelich, Bryce Terang, Jackson Trio, along with Sal Frelick. And in the case of Frelick and Terang, both north of a 345 on base. Yelich is up to 13 home runs after a really rough start to the season. He's figuring it out. Trio is only about a 383 on base, but he's up to 10 home runs. And then you've got the guys like Isaac Collins, Rhys Hoskins, both give you north of 350 on base as well. William Contreras has been up and down, but he's been able to give you a bit of something. And for the Padres, it's been about a league average team with regards to run scoring. You've got a pair of guys in Fernando Tatis Jr. along Gavin Sheets, who have a combined 24 home runs this season. Both of these guys in that neighborhood about a 255 to 260, though you had Tatis Jr. out of the fold yesterday, so he's going with a little bit of something lingering. Jackson Merrill has been able to above a 300 with regards to his average, about a 350 on base. And Dominic Machado only at 9 home runs this season. He's been able to for a 316. That's solid. Now for the Brewers, this has been a bullpen that has been shaky to say the least as far this season, as they're outside the top 20 with regards to their ERA. This is despite the fact that you've got a trio of guys in Nick Mears, along with Abner Uribe and Trevor McGill, who will be able to give you a sub-275 ERA, but you were just expecting so much more of Elvis Peguero along with Yoel Payamps. Those guys went down the toilet bowl this season. Jarrett Koenig has been up and down as well, and Rob Zanoski has been able to give you some relatively good innings, but it's a small sample size out of him. And then for the San Diego Padres, top 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA, I like that you've had Audio Monajon be a relatively good long guy. He and Yaki Matsui have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, and then you've got Jason Adam, who each of the last 2 years has supplied a sub-2 ERA. Robert Suarez, one of the better closers in all of baseball. He, Jeremiah Estrada, both have been able to give you a sub-250 ERA. David Morgan in a small sample size has looked solid as well, but it's a very interesting circumstance. I set my money line to where I'm willing to lay up to a -146 with the Brewers. If it is Freddie Peralta, again, -126. If it's Aaron Savali, and then if we do get this 8, if it's Peralta, I like the over. If it's Aaron Savali, I'd be willing to go up to an 8.5 to the over as well. And then +146 is my minimum buy point if you got Ryan Burgett against Freddie Peralta, and +128 is that minimum buy point if he's going up against Aaron Savali. 9:53, 9:54 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies are on the road facing off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Paul Skeens is on the bump for the Buccos, and Christopher Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies. 7 is the total. Over is anywhere between -105 to -110, -110 to -115 is that number on the under. And for Paul Skeens and company, it's -110 for them. Even money to -110 is that number on the Phillies, and I'm going to back the Phillies. I set them at a -113. Now, this is not me fading Paul Skeens by any stretch of of imagination. Like, Paul Skeens has been absolutely tremendous this year. He's posting up a sub-250 ERA. He's giving up a half home run per 9 innings. Sure, his swing and miss stuff is down a little bit from where it was last season, but still, 9.2 strikeouts and 2.1 walks per 9 innings. He has been absolutely magnificent. The problem is, the team is just producing nothing for him. He has given up 0 or 1 runs in each out of his last 5 starts, and the team is 2-3. Like, he gave up 4 runs in 5 starts, and the team lost 3 of them. Like, what are you supposed to do if you're Paul Skeens? Because you just have a bunch of jabronis around you that can't drive in runs. Right now, this Pittsburgh Pirates team is dead last in the National League in terms of runs per game at home, as you've had Oneil Cruz actually give you about a 350 or so on base. He's been able to slug out a double-figure amount of homers, but he was out of the fold yesterday. You've got these guys like Alexander Canario, Cabrian Hayes, Tommy Pham, Jared Trollo, all hitting at 223 or lower with no power and no on-base percentage. Andrew McCutchen was the lone guy in the starting lineup other than Isaiah Kiner-Falefa yesterday that left with an on-base percentage above a 315. You just can't have that. Nick Gonzalez is starting to give you a little bit of something, but other than Andrew McCutchen, along with Brian Reynolds and Oneil Cruz, nobody else on this team has more than 3 home runs. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Schwarber, 380 on base. He's been able to slug it out, 20 home runs. He will go deep again yesterday. Alec Bowman's starting to pick it up, but even with the Philadelphia Phillies, outside Kyle Schwarber, along with Bryce Harper, who's been in and out of the lineup since he took a ball off the elbow. It's been not necessarily a ton of power from these guys, as you've got Harper at about a 370 on base, 9 home runs out of him, and Trey Turner's up to 7 home runs. He's hitting at 300, but you've got Nick Castellanos, 280 batting average, but less than 7 home runs out of him. They've had to try to mix and match with some of these guys, like Otto Kemp got a start yesterday, so that's a bit of an issue. And what else is a bigger issue for the Philadelphia Phillies is really this bullpen is. Yeah, it's not great. Matt Strahm has a north of a 3.5 ERA now. Ryan Kerkering has gotten his ERA down below 3. He's actually had a nice run of things recently, but had to trot out there Joe Ross for a start. These guys are starting to get tired. Jordan Romano has been absolutely terrible. North of a 7 ERA. And it's not like this Pittsburgh Pirates team has a Mona Lisa Vito's of bullpen pitching in their bullpen either. Dennis Santana has been able to give you sub 3 ERA, and David Bednar has been a little bit better recently, but Jay Shogert starting to see some regression, north of 3 ERA. You've got Caleb Ferguson hovering right around about a 3.5 or so, and Colin Holderman being on the injured list. That's an issue. Joey Wentz has not necessarily been so great, so it's an interesting horse of peace situation, but I'm going to be willing to back Christopher Sanchez here. He's got a 3.15 ERA, feeling pennant more around about a 3.58 with 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, only allowing 1 home run per 9. Has really been able to do a nice job of locking that down recently. Had a few rough starts to begin the season, but ever since then, he's been able to make sure that he's been able to hold down the fort, as he has now given up 3 earned runs or fewer, and I believe now each out of his last 10 starts. So I do think that he's going to be able to continue that form in a low-scoring slog. Semi-total 6.8. I like the under and the Phillies on the money line. 955, 956 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They play with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Allen looks to fill it up for Arizona, and Brady Singer hopes to have the Arizona Diamondbacks singing the blues. 9.5 is the total. Over and under, both at minus 110. Arizona's a minus 125 favorite. Plus 105 to plus 113 is that number on the Reds. So the Reds as a favorite out of minus 118. I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line now. It's been a rough season for Brady Singer, to say the least. Just hasn't necessarily been himself. He's been posting up a 4.66 ERA, 3.7 walks per 9 innings. Feel the opponent is relatively on par there, but you know who's having a more rough season? Zach Allen. 5.13 ERA, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 4 walks per 9 innings. Always a guy that I've faded on the road, and he's actually been better on the road rather than at home this year, which that tells you where Zach Allen is at this year. It's just been all over the place, and this Arizona Diamondbacks team has been awful with their bullpen. Now, the good news for the Arizona Diamondbacks is that reinforcements are on the way. You get back Kendall Graveman, you get back Justin Martinez, that helps you out. A pair of guys who give you a sub 3.5 ERA, but right now you got Jalen Beeks, Shelby B. Miller, who have been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA as long guys, but you're still relying upon Scott McGough, Juan Murillo, Ryan Thompson, guys like this that have north of a 5 ERA. Not a place where you want to be. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this is a top 6 team in the big leagues with regards to runs per game. Corbin Carroll and Eugenio Suarez have been able to combine for 34 home runs, and Carroll's been able to give you a 340 on base. Josh Naylor's dealt with a little bit of ailment the last few days, but still hitting about a 290. He's been rock solid for the team. Geraldo Perdomo's give you about a 370 on base. And then Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 12 home runs at his first 130 or so at bats, 420 on on base. This is magnificent. And for the Cincinnati Reds, I do feel like this team is starting to come into their own a little bit more at the plate, as you got a pair of guys that don't necessarily hit for a lot of power in TJ Friedel along with Gavin Lux, but both of these guys are north of 375 on base. Spencer Sierra has been rough this year. He's hitting for about a 225, and Matt McClain 6 home runs, but he's hitting a $177. Lady De La Cruz, 12 home runs, the nearly 20 stolen bases, 340 on base. He's doing his part. You've had a lot of injuries like Jameer Candelario being out for the season has not been great. They're looking to some production from Will Benson, but getting back Christian Encarnacion Strand, who had a little bit of rough start to the season. I think that's big. He had a home run earlier in the series, and I do think that for Cincinnati, they do find a way to be able to persevere, get the job done, especially with the fact that they have a little bit of better bullpen here. Now they're still right around about 20th in terms of bullpen ERA, and I still don't trust in Emilio Pagan. I never have, and I don't think I ever will, but that said, you've been able to have Lyon Richardson as a long guy, be able to supply a sub-2 ERA. Tony Santillan is giving you about a 325. Taylor Rogers, guys like this you're able to mix and match with. So I did set the Reds on the money line at a -118. I'm going to be willing to lay it there, and I did set my total at 9.3. I think that Singer and Gallen both hunker down a little bit more here, so I'm in on that under 957, 958 on the card. The LA Dodgers are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals. Mitch McGreevy is on the bump for the Cardinals, and Clayton Kershaw goes for the Dodgers. Dodgers are between -126 and -135 favorites, plus 115. That number on St. Louis. 9 is the total. Over is at -105 to a -110. Under is between -110 to a -115. Set the Dodgers at a -133. I'm going to be willing to lay that 126 money line here. As for Clayton Kershaw, it's not been the world's greatest start to the year from. He's made 4 starts, 5.17 ERA, down to less than 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. 2 of those starts did come against the New York Mets, so he's now given up 300 runs or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts. That's not necessarily saying a ton, but he is also backed up by a bullpen that, for the LA Dodgers, while they're about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA, you actually have 2 really good long guys I like for the team. Jack Dreyer along with Ben Casparis. Both of these guys have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, so having those guys available I think is going to be able to help hold down the fort for the Dodgers. And you've got an LA Dodgers team that currently is averaging north of 5.5 runs per game. You've got a guy by the name of Shohei Ohtani who's been able to give you a 380 on base with 23 home runs. Andy Baez, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, all between 9 and 12 home runs. Baez is hitting at 290, so he has been rock solid. Freddie Freeman along with Will Smith, both north of a 420 on base, so this is a very fearsome lineup, even with Mariko Conforto hitting this dismal $169 with 3 home runs. He has been a massive disappointment for them thus far this season. And for St. Louis, it is a unit that has been not really generating a lot of home run power, but they're doing a solid job boom line. As a collective, they're hitting for about a 330 on base. That was going into the day on Saturday where both teams were very much held down, but still, you've got Mason Wynn who's giving you about a 350 on base. Lars Nootbaar right now is actually leading the way with 8 home runs. He's giving you a 355 on base, but Brendan Donovan's hitting above 300, always has demonstrative home and road splits, and has always had his best at home. You had Alec Burleson be able to provide a 340 on base. Will Contreras, after a rough start to the season, he's rounding into form with a 330 on base. Now, Nolan Arenado is hitting a little bit better, but still 240 with 7 home runs. You expect a little bit more there, but Ivan Herrera, 6 home runs at his first 110 or so at bats, hitting above a 300. That's rock solid, and this is a Cardinals bullpen that has been okay. They're right around league average with regards to their bullpen ERA. Ryan Helsley is still, I believe, one of the better closers in the big leagues. He's had his ups and downs, but he, Phil Matone, Kyle Leahy, Jojo Romero, all guys are giving you a sub-330 ERA. Steven Matz has been okay coming out of the bullpen. John King is able to give you presentable innings, and for the LA Dodgers, some of the shorter guys like a Tanner Scott have been a little bit rough, but I do think that Mitch McGreevy is actually going to give you a halfway decent start. Like, for McGreevy, this is going to be his 6th ever pitching appearance. I believe that this is start number 4 of his career. A career $1.57 ERA. He's allowed 1 home run in 28 2/3 innings. Now, I do think that this is going to be seeing some regression here, but you do have a Dodgers team that averages about 6.2 runs per game at home to closer to about 5 runs per game away from home, so I'm going to be willing to fire in on the under in this spot, as I did set my total more in that neighborhood of a 8.3, and with regards to Dodgers, I'm willing to lay up to a -132 on that money line as we go 959, 960 on the card. The Colorado Rockies play us to the New York Mets. Tyler McGill is on the bump for the Mets, and Esteban Marquez is on the bump for Colorado. Colorado is right now on the opener a plus 236, -265 is that number on the Mets. I'm seeing a total of 11. The under is -120, and the over is even, and right now with regards to that FanDuel opener on this run line, you're finding it on the Mets at a -176, and I am very willing to lay that. I set this at a -336. I really do like what Tyler McGill is putting out there, as this guy has been an absolute strikeout artist all season long. He's getting north of 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, when you go to Coors Field, the ball is not going to be moving quite as bit, so we might see a bit of drop off there, and he does need to calm down on the 4.2 walks per 9 innings, but 377 ERA, 3.13 fielding independent, has allowed 4+ runs in 3 out of his last last 5 starts, but also 6+ punch-outs in 4 out of his last 5 as well. So I do think that he's going to round into form, and in his last 4 starts, 3 of them came on the road against the Red Sox, Yankees, and Dodgers. So yeah, not necessarily an easy stretch there. If this does sound like an insert, it is, because it was supposed to be Germán Márquez, but now it is going to be Chase Dollander, which I don't think that that's really too much of an upgrade. Really no change with regard with my handicap. I'm still going to be on the Mets on the run line, and I'm going to be still willing to take a 10.5 or less to the over, because with Dollander, he made his return for this team a few days ago in that series against Miami Marlins. He only went 3 innings, and for Dollander, he's a high upside guy, but he's probably not going to be able to go much more than perhaps like 4 or so innings, because he's coming off the injured list. And even if you do get him for a lot of length, he's not much better than Germán Márquez. Germán Márquez has an ERA that's hovering in the neighborhood of 6, and while Dollander has done a better job of getting more strikeouts than Márquez fewer than 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, Márquez is giving up less than 1 home run per 9 innings. 2.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings for Dollander. He's a young gun that is trying to get a lot of strikeouts. He challenges guys, and it's not necessarily panning out. I will say he has given up now 2 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, but again, 3 of those starts, he went fewer than 4 2/3 innings, so he's really not delivering a lot of length. For the New York Mets, it was a little bit rough for them in game number 1 in terms of the scoring department, but I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up. Francisco Lindor, you would think would be just out of the lineup in general. He's dealing with a broken toe, and somehow, someway, he delivered in the 9th inning for the team on Friday. Warms your soul, so they're going to probably utilize him a bit more situationally. But you've got Pete Alonso, nearly a 4 base, 15 home runs entering into yesterday. Juan Soto, he's been able to give you 4 home runs over the last 10 days. He's still giving you a 375 on base, albeit you still need more out of him. And then you've got the likes of Tyrone Taylor, Mark Vientos, Brett Baty, hitting between about a 232, 235. You need these guys to pick it up a little bit, but Brandon Nimmo, 10 home runs, even though he's not hitting for average, he is hitting for some power. And for the Mets, this team is number 2 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. All these guys have been able to come up very big this season, as Oscar Zobin, Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, all these sub 240 ERA. You've been able to get some relatively good innings out of Ryan Stanek as well. They're looking to Jose Buto to be a long guy. He, Max Kranick, have been able to give you about a 3.5 or so with regards to that ERA. And for the Colorado Rockies, if there has been one saving grace for this team, it's been the fact that the bullpen has actually not been terrible, as Zach Ognos has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. You're getting Victor Vodnik off the injured list. He's been pretty rock solid with a sub 4 ERA. Jimmy Harrigan, Jake Bird, these guys have been able to give you some good innings. Ryan Rolson has actually proven his worth a little bit as well. Problem is, this has been a nightmare of a lineup. They're averaging just above 4 runs per game at home, and when you're at Coors Field at elevation and you're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home, that's an issue. Ryan McMahon has 5 home runs and is hitting at 270 at home, and Michael DeGlia hitting at 270 at home as well. But I mean, these guys like Sean Borger, Jacob Stallings, Adel Amador, who I recognize they sent him down to the minor leagues, Kyle Farmer, like all these guys are hitting at 215 or lower at home with a sub 282 on base, not necessarily a ton of power. Hunter Goodman has been moving line. He's been able to hit about a 255 at home. And Jordan Beck, 3 bombs, hitting about a 300 at home. That's been rock solid. But still, this is a team that, even with adding in there the likes of Orlando Arcia, Therio Estrada, still a pretty sad and miserable team. So I did set my money line at a minus 336, 204 on the run line. And I mean, my total at 10.8 is I do think that the Mets get to Germán Márquez. So I like the over and the run line of the Metropolitans. 961, 962 on the card. The San Francisco Giants play OC Atlanta Braves. Spencer Strider is on the bump for the Braves, and Landon Roop is on the bump for the Giants. And the Giants, who find themselves as a slight underdog. You're going to be getting them between even money to a plus 105. Meanwhile, between minus 115 to minus 120. That number on the Bravos, 8 is the total, under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And I did set the Atlanta Braves at a minus 114 on the money line. So we will see how this progresses throughout the day. And if you're looking to lay a run half, very initial opener over at FanDuel, you're able to get a plus 146 on the Atlanta Braves. I would need to get pretty much a plus 146. So we are right there. Going to be a determination of whether or not I go money line or run line with the Braves, but that said, I'm going to be in on this under. I said my total is 7.4, as I do have some question marks with Landon Roop. I'm pretty sold on the San Francisco Giants overall from a pitching perspective, and especially with the fact that this team has been absolutely magnificent with their bullpen. I had a sub 245 ERA out of all these guys. Randy Rodriguez, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Duvall. You just go down the list. Hayden Birdsong is now a starter, and he's been rock solid for them as well, and then you just get a little bit more out of someone like Spencer Bivens. So these guys have been able to do an amazing job. But for Roop, even though he's got a 3.18 ERA, the 3.2 walks per 9 innings, a little bit concerning. 3.48 fielding independent. Now he's on a really good run 1 run in terms of earned runs allowed in his last 4 starts and 3 earned runs in total over the course of his last 5. Now, along the way, he had 4 additional unearned runs in those last 5 starts, so something that you do want to be mindful of, but still, he's been able to do a nice job there. I still do think that there might be a little bit of regression for him, and for Spencer Strider, I do think that he's going to be able to find his form a little bit more. I think that just getting the, shall we say, kinks sorted out in his last few starts have been big, and his strikeout numbers are still good. He's still getting a strikeout per inning. He's got 19 strikeouts in 19 innings. You know that it's going to be coming back to him as the season goes along. He's just been really hammered by the deep ball. That's why he's got a 6.39 fielding dependent compared to a 5.68 ERA. He has allowed 5 home runs in his first 4 starts of the season, but I do think that things are going to be getting better moving forward. And for the Atlanta Rays, the dismal bullpen appearances that we saw in their game on Thursday against the Arizona Diamondbacks, I don't think it's overly long-lasting. Now, the issue that you do have is Desbel Hernandez is now on the injured list. That's not great, and you're going to need to rely upon Craig Kimbrell for innings. That's not good. But you do have Angel De Los Santos, Pierce Johnson, Dylan Lee. These 3 guys have been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA. Now, Rossi Iglesias has been a mess all season long, but I do believe that the Braves are a little bit better than what their bullpen showed a few days ago. And for the Atlanta Braves, you've been able to get good production out of Ronald Acuna Jr. since he's come off of the injured list. 4 home runs in his first 13 games. He's providing a nearly 400 on base. Austin Riley has continued to give you 11 home runs, about a 330 on base. Matt Olson, 13 bombs, 345 on base. Marcell Ozuna, north of 400 on base with 10 bombs as well. So that has been rock solid for this team. Drake Baldwin in a limited amount of at-bats. He's been able to 300 as well. So these guys are able to do a nice job of mixing matching, though. Bottom of the lineup, guys like Nick Allen, Eli White, that's been beginning to regress just a little bit. So something that you do want to be mindful of. And for the San Francisco Giants, it's been a little bit hot and cold in terms of their lineup, as you do have a trio of guys that have been able to slug out between 11 and 12 home runs, actually 10 and 11 home runs. Wilmer Flores, Eloy Ramos, and Matt Chapman. For Chapman, about a 355 on base. Same goes for Ramos, but Ramos hitting for a much better average at darn near 300. Wilmer Flores hitting about a 255, but Mikey Shremsky down to about a 333 on base. Same with Jung-Ho Lee, so these guys started to see a little bit of regression. And then you do have to have fear about the bottom of the lineup. Luis Matos, Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade Jr. hitting below the Bedell's line of 200. Christian Callas has only been able to hit about a 220 with a 275 on base. You need to be getting a little bit more there. I do think that for Landry Roop, he gets a relatively good start, but I think that Spencer Strider starts to find it a little bit more here. I set my total at 7.4. I like the under, and for the Braves, I'm going to go up to a minus 114 on that money line. 963 and 964 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox are on the road against the New York Yankees. Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees, and Hunter Dobbins is on the bump for Boston. Boston is a sizable underdog between plus 175 to plus 185. Meanwhile, minus 205 to minus 210. That number on the Yankees, 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And if you're looking at that initial run line, you're going to be laying minus 110 with the New York Yankees. Yeah, give me a shot here on the Boston Red Sox. I was willing to take a plus 170 or higher on the money line. And heck, if you are getting that run line at like a minus 110, not the world's worst look either. For Hunter Dobbins, I recognize that he hasn't been like the Mona Lisa Vito pitching or anything like that, but I mean, he has been fine. He's been presentable, posting up an ERA that is just a hair above a 4 at a 4.06. He's not necessarily a strikeout artist with about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2.5 walks per 9, 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. He had a little bit of a blow-up start against the Detroit Tigers that ballooned his numbers a little bit, but past that, he's been able to give you 5 solid innings. And for the Red Sox, they actually do have the bullpen advantage in this game, with Luke Weaver currently being on the injury list for the New York Yankees. Now for the Yankees, they've been mixing and matching with someone like a Yordy De Los Santos, who's been able to give you a 3 ERA. You've had Jonathan Loaiza come in. He's been able to give you some good innings, but still don't have a lot of faith in Ian Hamilton. They've been trying to just be able to find their way with Brent Hendrick and company in this bullpen. And for the Boston Red Sox, is this a supreme bullpen? No, Garrett Woodlock, your long guy, has been having his ups and downs, a little bit north of the 3.5 ERA, but I like what you've been able to get out of Justin Wilson, Brendan Bernardino, along with Aroldis Chapman, which Chapman has actually been really good this year. I don't know how long lasting it's going to be, but these 3 guys, a sub 230 ERA. Greg Weissert has been able to do a nice job locking it down, give you about a 3 ERA as well. And for the Red Sox, it's been a little bit rough for them without Alex Bregman, but I do feel like this offense is starting to come into their own a little bit. We saw that in game 1 of this series with Sharon Duran sitting for about a 275 now. You've been able to have a pair of guys in Wilder Abreu, Rafael Devers give you 13 home runs, and for Devers north of a 400 on base. Abreu is hitting about a 250. And then Ceddanne Rafael. He's not necessarily the world's greatest hitter with about a 290 on base, but he's hitting at 250. He's been hot recently, so you like to see that. David Hamilton hitting about a 200. You need a little bit more there, but when they've called upon Abraham Toro, he and Rami Gonzalez are hitting darn near 300. So the offense is starting to get going. This is a Red Sox team that is a top 7 team with regards to runs per game. Obviously, the Yankees are a top 3 team with this regard, and they have that guy by the name of Aaron Judge. 495 on base with 21 home runs. yeah, that's pretty solid. And then Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, pair of guys between a 330 to a 340 on base, 25 home runs between the two of them. Cody Bellinger, after a rough start to the season, he's been hitting darn near 300 over the last 30 days. He's been able to supply 9 home runs. Anthony Volpe has been a little bit up and down, but you've got Paul Goldschmidt give you a 375 on base. He's down with his power numbers, but he's doing a nice job getting on base. And Jazz Chisholm, he's been able to give you 9 bombs as well, so that's been rock solid, and he's off the injured list. Now for Carlos Rodon, he has been very dominant recently. As for Mr. Rodon, he has been able to just go out there and just continue to shove for the seam all season long, as he has given up, I believe, a grand total of 2 runs over his last 4 starts, 2.49 ERA overall this season. But we've noticed throughout his career, he does tend to give up the deep ball a little bit more at Yankee Stadium, and without closer Luke Weaver in there, that does cause for a little bit of testiness with this Yankees bullpen as well. And I do think that Carlos Rodon is doing for a little bit of regression. So I set my total at 8.6. So I'd like the over, and getting north of plus 170. I'd like the Red Sox on the money line, 965, 966 on the betting board. The Houston Astros are on the road facing off against Cleveland Guardians, as Tanner Bybee is on the bump for Cleveland, and you have Mr. Brandon Walter who's going to be on the bump for Houston. Most places have this off the board because Walter was a little bit of a man of mystery going into this one, so we are going to be just giving you guys my handicap, though we do have an initial opener at FanDuel right now. Guardians minus 136, plus 116 on the Astros. 7.5 is the total, over is minus 120, the under is even, and if we do get that opener, I would be looking at the Guardians up to a minus 134, and when we get the dime lines, we should be able to, if that's a indicator of it, get like more of a minus 130 on Cleveland, and I would be willing to lay that. For Tanner Bybee, it's been a up and down season, to say the least, for him thus far this season. Actually, it was a whole lot better when he was on the road rather than at home last season, and for Tanner Bybee, we've seen a little bit of reversal from 3.89 ERA overall of the season, but when he's been at home, he's been able to supply a 2.43 ERA, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, and on the road, he's given up well north of 2 home runs per 9 innings, 11 bombs in 39 and 2/3 innings. That's not necessarily what you want to see, but for Bybee overall has been able to do a pretty solid job holding down the fort and not hurting himself overly much. 3 walks per 9 innings, only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. It's a little bit of a concern, but for the Houston Astros, this is a lineup that is just very much down in general. This is not the Astros that we've all come to know and love, though. Jose Altuve back to hitting for north of 260. He's been able to supply you with 9 home runs this season. Having Yordan Alvarez has obviously hurt this team, him being out of the full, but you've got Brendan Rodgers, Yanier Diaz, Christian Walker, all getting below at 280 on base. That's been hurting them. Isaac Paredes, so 13 plus home runs, giving you north of 350 on base. And for the Cleveland Guardians, the issue that you do have for this team is it's a very top-heavy team, as you had to send Brian Rocchio down to the minor league levels after he was just not great, to say the least. And then you've got the likes of a Bo Naylor, John Kensey Noel, Will Wilson, Austin Hedges. These guys hanging below the nose line of 200. And for Kyle Manzaro, though he's got a double-figure amount of homers, he's hitting just a 207. You do have those Stephen Kwan, who's been able to hit above a 300. You've been able to have Jose Ramirez give you a 387 on base, double-figure amount of homers there. When Carlos Santana's out there, he's been able to give you north of 350 on base, and I do sense the Guardians starting to round into form a little bit more with regards to the bullpen after a very bad start to the season. Emmanuel Clase has looked a little bit better. Hunter Gaddis has given you a sub-2 ERA, and Cade Smith has been able to give you a north of 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, sub-3 ERA. Tim Aaron, after a shaky start to the season, has been a little bit better, but for the Houston Astros, they are going to have the better bullpen in this case, as you've got the likes of Brian Abreu, Brian King, Caleb Ort, Stephen Okert, Chad Shader, all give you a sub-3 ERA, so they've actually been very dominant on that front end. For Brandon Walter, when he got his first start of the season, he actually looked really good. I think they went something like 5 or 6 scoreless innings. Like, dude was absolutely dealing, so that's something that you do like to see. 5 scoreless innings with 5 punch-outs, but that said, it's a very small sample size, and if you take a look at what he's done at the minor league level for the Sugar Land Space Cowboys, he's got 9.3 strikeouts to 1.3 walks per 9 innings. Doesn't necessarily lend the world's greatest amount of length, as he's been going about 4.5 innings per start/appearance, so I find that to be very intriguing. He actually was not at the big league level at all in the 2024 season, so I mean, he's come back and he's been a nice little bit of a revelation, but I still feel like there's a little bit of unknown. I don't want to be risking it on that unknown of Mr. Walter, as I did set the Guardians at a minus 134, most likely going to be taking them on the money line, but I did set my total at a 7.8. If we could get that 8.5, certainly going to be in on this total under as well. 967, 968 on the card. You've got the Minnesota Twins, and they're going to be playing us to the Toronto Blue Jays, as Bowden Francis takes a bump for Toronto, and Joe Ryan is going for Minnesota. Minnesota is a very sizable favorite of anywhere between minus 169, very nice, to minus 178, plus 150 to plus 155. That number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even, and if you're looking to lay a run half with the Minnesota Twins, you're going to be getting that at a plus 106, and I would need closer to a plus 112. That just feels like a really bad opener from FanDuel with regards to run line, and we always see those bad run line openers. I think that when it's all said and done, I should be able to get the plus 112 that I am needing to be able to take a shot on the run line, and I should be landing there. I set the Twins on the money line at a minus 174, and for Bowden Francis, he just has not been good this year. Like, I wish I could put it to you any other way, and yet I'm still going to be in on the under because I set my total at 7.6. We'll dive into that in a second, but for Mr. Francis, this guy was due in for so much regression the last 2 years, because you take a look at what he did the last 2 seasons, the 2023-24 campaign, he posted up a 289 ERA with a 423 fielding independent, a magical fairy tale run of 2 years. He was giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, albeit command was good, 1.9 walks per 9 innings, but you knew that luck was going to be running out, and boy, has a 2.7 bombs allowed per 9 innings. He's given up 17 home runs, which right now leads the big leagues, and Antonio Senzatella exists, so that's not great to say the least, and he's given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, but that said, I do think that he's going to be able to round into form a little bit more here. What I find to be very interesting about Brown and Francis is that when he's been on the road, he's actually been a whole heck of a lot better. 789 home ERA, 362 road ERA. On the road, he's given up still a little bit north of home run per 9 innings, but he's been a presentable pitcher. At home, he has been a straight fade, and for Joe Ryan, this guy does a much better job when he's at home rather than when he's on the road. 291 ERA overall for the season, 10.1 strikeouts to 1.6 walks per 9 innings, albeit he's given up 1.2 bombs per 9, but that said, he's been able to do a very solid job of being able to hold things down, not put guys on cheaply, and he does face off against a Blue Jays team that they were able to bust through for a little bit of offense yesterday, but let's call it what it is. This has been one of the most rough offenses in all of baseball when they've been on the road. Going into yesterday, averaging about 3.1 runs per game on the road. That's up to about 3.2 now, but I mean, that puts them in the bottom 5 of the big leagues with the likes of the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Colorado Rockies. So that's not a place where you want to be, and it all comes back to one thing. They just have not been able to get the Powerball going. As you add entering into yesterday, nobody with north of 8 home runs on the roster, as you've had Dalton Varsho, who missed like 36 games this season, tied for the team lead in terms of home runs. George Springer busts through. He gets home run number 10 of the season yesterday to be able to take that lead. And I mean, for Springer, he's having a nice season, 367 on base, but you've got other guys that, again, they're not aiming for a ton of power, but they're moving the line. You've got someone like Vlager Jr. giving you a 380 on base, Edison Barger, Nate Lukes, north of 350 on base, even someone like a Miles Straw is moving the line. Bo Bichette is hitting at 275, but that power's not there, and for the Twins, it's not like they've been the Mona Lisa Vitos of power either. You've got quite a few guys hitting between about a 255 to a 270, Ty France, Trevor Larnach, Ryan Jeffers, Matt Wallner, but I mean, they're really not going yard for you. Larnach has given you 9 home runs. You've got Byron Buxton, who's been able to supply 10 home runs this far this season, but for Buxton, he was out of the lineup yesterday. You have Harrison Bader giving you about a 345 on base, Willie Castro about a 340 on base along Cody Clemens. Clemens, 6 home runs at a small sample size has been nice, but Royce Lewis has been absolutely awful. Best thing that this Twins team has going for them is bullpen, top 6 team in terms of bullpen area. You've got one albatross, and that'd be Griffin Jacks. We saw what happened yesterday after he gave up a home run, so that's not great, but you have the likes of Louis Varland, Cole Sands, along with Brock Stewart, who will be able to give you a sub-3.3 ERA, and then Yuan Duran has been one of the best closers in all baseball. Flip side, you've got a Blue Jays team that all of a sudden they've been able to do a little bit better job with their bullpen as well. This has been an upright team of the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA. Now, Yimi Garcia and Nick Sandlin being on the injured list have been rough, but Brandon Little, Yuriel Rodriguez, Chad Green, these guys have been able to do a nice job mix and match it for a sub-365 ERA. In the case of Rodriguez, a sub-3 ERA, and he's able to give you multiple innings, but I mean, again, it's just as a case where with the Blue Jays, I just don't know what you're going to be able to get in terms of the overall power. Obviously, you've had Alejandro Kirk give you a little bit of something, but that said, it is a case where I do think that Joe Ryan goes out there, dominates a low-scoring game. So my total is 7.6. I do like the under, and for the Twins at a plus 112 or higher, I'm going to be willing to lay a run half on that run line, 969, 970 on the betting board. It is the Kansas City Royals, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Chicago White Sox. We do know that Michael Lorenzen is going to be on the bump for the Royals, and it's all to be determined on the bump right now for the White Sox, so this game is off the board. And when I was checking CBS Sports, they were projecting Bryce Wilson to get the start, and Bryce Wilson is pretty much I guess you could call it, translation for a bullpen game. So I have set this as if it's going to be a bullpen game. I would be willing to lay up to minus 185 on the Royals money line, but would be looking much more at that run line, which I'm willing to lay up to a minus 112 on, plus 187 or higher, looking at the White Sox, and then set a total of an 80.6. So 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher, the under, and I fully recognize that you've got two of the worst teams in all baseball in terms of run creation in this game. As for the Kansas City Royals, man, it has been all sorts of brutal for them. They're right now averaging 3.4 runs per game. That is 27th in the league. White Sox, 3.5 runs per game. That's 26th in the league. Though I will say for the White Sox, a little bit north of 4 runs per game at home. They have been a much better home team rather than a road team. Like, this road team actually has as many wins on the road as the Colorado Rockies. That's not great to say the least, but you've had Edgar Quijano do a nice job stepping up at the catcher spot. He's giving you north of a 330 on base. Chase Meredith has actually been able to hit for like a 300. You've now got Andrew Benintendi off the injured list. He's been able to move the line in at 250 with 6 home runs at a small sample size. Mike Tauchman has been able to 300, but you still have these guys like Michael A. Taylor, Joshua Palacios, Vinny Capra, all these guys hitting below the middle sign of 200, and Miguel Vargas is right now leading the way in terms of power with 8 home runs, so that's a little bit less than savory. What is really less than savory, though, is this entire Chicago White Sox bullpen, which it looks like you're going to be relying upon all these guys on this Sunday, and that is not a place where you want to be. As for the Chicago White Sox right now, 22nd in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, hovering right around about 4.37. And you've actually had Mike Vasil do a really good job as a long guy, and he should be good to go in this one. He's giving you a sub 250 ERA. I've actually really liked what I've seen out of him, but he and Steven Wilson are really the lone two bright spots that you've got in this bullpen. As then you've got Jordan Leisure, who's posting up a little bit north of a 4 ERA. These guys like Penn Murphy, Cam Bouger, Tyler Gilbert, who's now on the injured list, Jared Schuster, a whole bunch of veterans that are giving you a north of 5 ERA and just have given you a good giant nothing burger all season long. And for the Kansas City Royals, the saving grace of this team has been the fact that they've been a top 7 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. It's a big reason why they're above 500 right now. So you've got Taylor Clark give you a sub 150 ERA in this bullpen. Lucas Versadge, Carlos Estevez at 8th and 9th inning punch have been able to give you a sub 2 ERA. Daniel Lynch has been rock solid. Steven Cruz is posting up a sub 175 ERA. So all these guys are delivering a good mix of righties and lefties. And for the Royals, right now you just don't have a lot of offense. As Vinny Pasquantino, 9 bombs. He's up to hitting at 270. He's been really surging over the last 30 days. And Jonathan India has looked a little bit better with about a 330 on base, but you haven't gotten bang for your buck there. You do have Kyle Osbel, Drew Waters, a pair of outfielders are hitting for about a 270. No power whatsoever, but they're moving the line. And Bobby Witt Jr., 21 stolen bases, 350 on base, but you need more than the 7 home runs out of him. And Salvador Perez has been a disaster. 270 on base with 4 home runs. You just need more there. Freddie Fermin at this point is probably a better catcher than Salvador Perez in terms of his overall bat. And then you've had a DFA, some like Hunter Renfroe, who was awful this season. Kevon Biggio has been awful this season. He's at the minor league level, so they've got a lot of guys that just have not panned out for them. But for Michael Lorenzen, I do think that he's going to be able to go out there and give you a presentable performance. He has not been amazing this year, but he's not been the world's worst pitcher. He is giving you a 5.12 ERA, that fielding dependent, more on about a 4.83, 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has given up the 1.7 bombs per 9, and he's been in a brutal stretch. 3 runs or more allowed in each of his last 4 starts, albeit some of those were unearned runs. But that said, 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher, the under for the Royals will delay up to a minus 112 on that run line. For the White Sox, need at least a plus 187 to take a shot on that money line. It's 971, 972 on the card. You got the Baltimore Orioles against the Athletics, as the homestanding A's in Sacramento are trotting out their to be determined again today. So another game that's off the board, and Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for Baltimore. The A's are refusing to announce any of their starters whatsoever, and it makes it impossible to give any sort of breakdown. Thank you so much for just continuing to wrong us, A's, who went 1-20 last week. They had a stretch where they won 1 game out of 21. What are they trying to hide right now? Like, what are we doing? But that said, it's right now lining up to be Jacob Lopez, which is pretty much translation for a bullpen game and a half for the Athletics. And in this case, I set the Orioles at a minus 127 on the money line, willing to go up to a minus 126 with them, plus 128 or higher, looking at the A's. And then I set a total of 10.7. So 10.5 or less, I'm in on the over, and 11 or higher to the under. Again, what do the A's think, that they're going to be trotting out their Dennis Eckersley or something like that? Like, what are we doing here? So that does grind my gears, especially when you take a look at this A's bullpen. Nobody's good. Nobody's good in this bullpen whatsoever. They're dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Like, what sort of sorcery do you think is going to be coming over them that's going to allow them to be able to produce good innings? Like, right now, Hogan Harris is the only guy in this bullpen that is producing a sub-375 ERA that has thrown more than 1.1 innings this year. Like, my goodness. Right now, your leader is actually the backup catcher, and Willie McCliver, who I think has thrown 1 inning of scoreless baseball. So, that's not great. Grant Holman is posting up a 4.25 ERA. If you're looking at Jacob Lopez, this This guy's nickname should be Hickory because he has gotten smoked thus far this season, so that's been not great. 7.20 ERA. He is getting about 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the problem is he's also given up 6 home runs in 20 innings, and he's giving up 4.5 walks per 9. So I don't think that he's going to be too long for this game, and for the Athletics, they've still been able to do a nice job with their offense. Tyler Soderstrom, Brent Rooker combined 27 home runs. Both of these guys give you north of 325 on base. Jacob Olsen, he's up to north of 4 on base. He's starting to learn that he can actually draw some walks, and he's been able to give you 8 home runs. And then Shea Langoliers, Shea banged for 10 home runs. So you do like what these guys are providing. Now, Miguel Andujar being on the injured list hurts his team, so Luis Urias is starting to see a few more at-bats, but that said, the A's have been presentable with regards to that. And for the Baltimore Orioles, they entered in the series on a 6-game win streak. They do lose that first game, and Cedric Mullins has been on the injured list, which has hurt this team quite a bit, but you know what? You've been able to get some good production at the top from Gunnar Henderson along Jackson Alday, pair of guys that entered in yesterday with 8 bombs, 315 to 320 on bases, so they're starting to produce. Ryan O'Hearn, 400 on base, he's been able to fly you with 9 home runs, so you do like to see that. And then Adley Rutschman has been hitting for about a 312 on base. It's been a miserable season for him, but he's been better recently, and that's all that you can ask out of him. Tyler O'Neill's back on the injured list, so that's been hurting the team quite a bit. Hudson Kierstead has been a big, giant disappointment, but Ramon Urias, whenever he's been out there, has actually been rock solid for the team. He's been able to give you about a 330 on base, and for the Orioles, this is another one of those bullpens that's not great, to say the least, as currently they're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've been able to get a little bit more out of Felix Bautista, and I will say, Brian Baker, along with Keegan Aiken, two guys are able to give you some length, especially Keegan Aiken, have been able to give you a sub-320 ERA, but that said, you still have Seranthony Dominguez, along with Matt Bowman, Colin Selby. These guys are posting up north of a 450 ERA. Ciano Perez is on the injured list, and that's not a loss, north of an 80 ERA. And then for Sugano, he's been good in terms of not walking guys, but that's about the only good thing I could say about him, and it just looks like he's doing for a whole bunch of regression. As for Sugano, right now a 304 ERA, but a fielding pen of a 470, 5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's given up 1.4 walks per 9 innings, which is good. 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings as well. That's not good. So do you think that you get a high-scoring game? I'm willing to lay up to a minus 126 on the Orioles on the money line, plus 128 or higher. Looking at the A's, and then 10.5 or less, I'd like the over 11 or higher. The under 973, 974 on the betting board. It is the Seattle Mariners, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the LA Angels. As for the Angels, it is going to be Tyler Anderson getting the start for them. George Kirby goes for Seattle, and Seattle is a favorite of anywhere between minus 142, minus 150, plus 122 to a plus 136 is that number on the Halos, and 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 125, and the under is plus 105, and starting to see one straight 9 out there. Under is minus 115, the over is minus 105. Whether you got a 9 or an 8.5, I'm willing to go over. I did set my total at 9.2, and for Seattle, I can only make them a minus 129 favorite, even though I love fading Tyler Anderson, and I think that he's doing for regression. Give me a plus 130 or higher, and I'm going to be willing to dive in on that money line. George Kirby has not been good since coming off the injured list. As a matter of fact, he's been an abject disaster. 13 runs allowed in 13 2/3 innings, giving up 4 bombs. He just has not been himself. And if you even go back to his AAA rehab starts with the Tacoma Rainiers, he was getting banged around like a piñata in those starts too. So he's just not been able to find it. He's clearly not 100%. And for Tyler Anderson, he's given up at least 4 runs in 3 of his last 4 starts, and he still has a 386 ERA compared to a 489 fielding dependent, which shows that there should be even more regression coming for him. So Tyler Anderson is finally getting what he deserved after a fairy tale ride last few seasons. I recognize that some of these off-speed guys, some of these like sinker ball pitchers, what have you, sometimes their fielding independents are just not going to match up with their ERAs because they can get those double play balls, but still, it's been ridiculous what we've seen because he's given up 3.5 walks per 9 innings, 1.5 home runs per 9. Like, what are we doing here? But that's it for the LA Angels. The big issue that you do have with this team, the bullpen. They are currently in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and that is not great to say the least. They are relying upon Robert Stevenson to be able to uplift this bullpen, and then he lands on the injured list. Hunter Strickland has actually given you some solid innings, but when your saving grace in the bullpen is Hunter Strickland, you know that things are going very wrong. Ryan Zephyrian, Kenley Jansen, Reed Detmers, Brock Burke, I mean, all these guys posting up north of 470 ERA. They've got Hector Frickaderis in the bullpen right now, so that's not great. Now, what is good for the LA Angels? Top 4 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. You've got a whole bunch of guys that are going yard for a Taylor Ward, 17 home runs, 14 out of Logan O'Hoppe. You get Mike Trout off the injured list. He and Zach Neto, 10 home runs apiece. Joe Adell setting fire to the rain. He's been able to give you 9 home runs, but pretty much none of these guys, other than Logan O'Hoppe and Zach Neto, are hitting for average. I mean, these 2 guys have been able to hit for north of 250, and not even the on-base pace is so great. But Trout, Ward, Joe Adele, Ori Soler, all hitting at 225 or lower, really not giving you much in terms of on base as well. That's a bit of an issue for you. And with regards to the Seattle Mariners, you do have some issues with regards to this bullpen as well, as they've been mixing and matching with the likes of Casey Lugumina and company has set him in for Andres Munoz, who's been so solid. Now you've got Matt Brash back in that bullpen. He has yet to give up an earned run ever since he came off the injured list, and you've had Gabe Spire be able to give you a sub 225 ERA, like what I'm saying out of Carlos Vargas as well. And for Seattle, it's been a lineup that's been a little bit more hit or miss recently, but one guy who's been a hit, Cal Raleigh, big dumper, 24 home runs, a 380 on base. He has been supreme. And then you've got JP Crawford, who's been able to give you about a 395 on base. Jorge Polanco is starting to regress. He and Julio Rodriguez in between about a 245 to 255. So they've been able to do a nice job of being able to hold down the fort for this team, and then you've been able to have Dylan Moore be able to give you a little bit more. He's been able to give you 8 home runs. He's hitting right around about 250 as well. So I do think that for Seattle, they're going to be able to get to Anderson and that bullpen, but I also do think that George Kirby is going to be giving up quite a bit as well. Plus 130 or higher, looking at the Angels on the money line, and I like the overset by total 9.2. 975, 976 on the card. The Miami Marlins hit the road to face off against the Tampa Bay Rays. Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Rays. To be determined on the bump for Miami, and this is a game that is off the board. Right now, CBS Sports is projecting Connor Gillespie to get the start for Miami, and well, if you get Connor Gillespie to make the start for Miami, that's not great. I set the Rays at a minus 237. On the money line, I'd be willing to go up to minus 124 on that run line. It did set a total of 9.2. 9 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, 9.5 or higher. The under, I'm not going to go too deep on Gillespie because we don't know whether or not he's going to be getting the start or not, but if he does, he has made 6 starts this far this season, last coming in late April, so he's been on the injury list. 8.65 ERA, giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings. And there's not a lot of guys that you can trot out there for the Miami Marlins that are going to give you halfway presentable innings. Yuri Perez is a guy that they're looking to be able to get back, and if you get Yuri Perez, that's great, but I don't think that he's going to be available for this game. He's like the only guy that you can take a look at and feel halfway decent about. Meanwhile, with the Miami Marlins, it's just been a bullpen that's been rough. You could conceivably be able to get something out of Ronnie Enriquez. He's able to give you a sub 250 ERA. He's able to give you multiple innings as a little bit of a long guy, but other than really, I would say Anthony Bender, who's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, not a lot of presentable options in this bullpen. It's not like the Miami Marlins are just absolutely slugging the ball either. Kyle Sowers has been great, 350 on base, 10 home runs as far this season, and Augustin Ramirez, young catcher, has been able to give you 8 home runs. He's actually been a really nice find for this team, but Matt Mervis got sent down to the minor league level because he was hitting $175. You've gotten nothing out of Nick Fortes, who's hitting below the middle sign of 200. He's a backup catcher, as Ramirez has been a little bit in and out of the lineup last few days now. They get back Xavier Edwards, no power whatsoever, but he and Jesus Sanchez, 355 on base. Edwards had a cycle last year against the Milwaukee Brewers, so you've got quite a few guys doing an okay job there. And Dave Myers is hitting above 300. Meanwhile, for the Rays, they've been becoming a little bit more of a presentable lineup now. They're no longer playing at the Trop, so the ball's going to start to fly out there in Tampa. So you do want to note that. You do have a few guys like Ben Rofit, Danny Jansen, the catchers, Taylor Walls, Christopher Morel, hitting at 220 or lower. You've got Curtis Meade in that fold as well, but Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero, a combined 25 plus home runs between these two guys. Yandy Diaz still only give you about a 290 on base, but he's starting to give you a bit of something, and you've had Jose Calabreo be able to give you a 325 on base, and he's been able to do a really nice job of being able to swipe bags. And for the Rays, you know that this bullpen is going to be so supreme. They've been a top 6 team with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got so many of these guys that are able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Edwin Uceta has been a little bit rough, but you've got the likes of Pete Fairbanks, Eric Orze, Manuel Rodriguez, Garrett Clevenger doing a nice job of being able to mix and match in this bullpen. And Drew Rasmussen has put together a really nice season. 2.14 ERA now. Fielding pennant is quite a bit higher than that, as he's not some sort of like a massive swing and miss guy. He's only been able to give you in that neighborhood about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's doing a really good job of just being able to keep things out in front of him, not give up a lot of walks with fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, and I do think that he's going to be able to continue what's been a magnificent run. 0 runs allowed in his last 4 starts, going a grand total of 23 innings in those last 4 starts. I do think the experience is a little bit of regression there, but do think that Rays are able to put, I guess, hammer to nail in this spot. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 124 on that Rays run line. Need at least plus 238 to take shot on the Marlins, and then maybe my total to wear 9 or less. I like the over 9.5 or higher, the under 977, 978 on the betting board. It is the Washington Nationals, and they play out the Texas Rangers, as we know that it's going to be Trevor Williams on the bump for Washington. Right now, it's a little to be determined who's on the bump for the Texas Rangers. This game is presently off the board, and when I was seeing initially, it was looking like we were going to be getting Tyler Mahle, and if we do get Tyler Mahle, that's a very good thing for the Texas Rangers, because because, well, if they don't get him, that's not necessarily great. And if you do get Molly, I set the Rangers at a minus 117 on the money line and would need at least plus 118 to take a shot on the Nationals, minus 116 or better, looking at the Rangers, and then set a total of an 8.3, 8 or less, looking at the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. Now, if the Rangers have to go with a bullpen game or something like that, they likely become a very, very slight underdog. Not necessarily because the bullpen is awful. For the Rangers, it's not a great bullpen, but I mean, it's far from the world's worst bullpen. Jacob Latz has become a relatively good long guy. He's been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA. You've had Robert Garcia start to go down the tubes a little bit, but he's still been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA. He's still been able to get some good innings out of some of these mix and match guys, like a Hobie Milner has been able to give you a sub 2 ERA along Chris Martin. But I mean, man, this is a lineup of the Texas Rangers that has given you nothing whatsoever. Every one of these guys looks lost at the plate. Every one of them. You've got right now Wyatt Langford with 11 home runs, but now he's hitting for about a 230. The Joshes, Josh Young, Josh Smith, both hitting between about a 262, 270, a combined 12 home runs between those two guys. But I mean, what in the world has happened to these guys on paper that look so good? Evan Carter, along with Jake Berger, Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, Jock Peterson, all hitting a 215 or lower. I don't think a single one of these guys is above a 275 in terms of on base. They're not even giving you power. Like, what in the heck has gone on here? And Corey Seager, since coming off the injury list, has been terrible. So, yeah, this is not great to say the least for the Texas Rangers lineup. And for the Texas Rangers, they are going to be facing off against a guy in Trevor Williams. And, well, things have not been great for him either. Trevor Williams, as we know, a little bit of a pitcher contact guy. He's not going to be getting any sort of strikeouts or anything like that. And his ERA has ballooned well north of a 5. As a matter of fact, it has reached 6. Feeling a pen more with a 393 is he's only given up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, 2.5 walks per 9, but it's just allowing a lot of general contact, and he is on a brutal stretch where he's given up 4+ runs in 5 out of his last 6 starts. So it's not great to say the least, and it's not like he's backed up by some sort of wizardry out there in the bullpen. As for the Washington Nationals, currently dead last in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA. They've been trying to mix and match for so many of these guys, and it's been survival of the fittest. Like, they had to let go of Lucas Sims because he was just not cutting it for the team. They had Colin Boucher post up north of 11 ERA. He had to get sent down to the minor league level. So now they're trotting out there like Kyle Finnegan, Cole Henry. These two guys have been able to give you a sub 250 ERA, and Andrew Chafin's been okay for the team as well, but I mean, Finnegan and Henry are the only two guys who are giving you a sub 360 ERA. Jackson Rutledge is going down the toilet bowl. Zach Brzezinski has given you nothing whatsoever. Ori Lopez is a disaster. But for the Washington Nationals, the team of the month of May was the top 7 team with regards to runs per game, and they're coming into form with regards to their overall offense. James Wood is giving you good wood, 16 home runs, 370 on base. You got CJ Abrams, who's been able to move the line, 8 home runs, 335 on base. You've been able to get about a 300 average out of Ahmed Rosario. So these guys have been solid. Alex Call, 380 on base, not a lot of power, but he finds a way on. You need that out of Dylan Cruz, Josh Bell, both of these guys ain't below the baseline of 200, but you've been able to get a little bit more power there. Now, Cruz dealing with an injury, he's most likely going to be heading to the injured list, but I said, for the Washington Nationals, I do think that if they do go up against Tyler Mahle, they're going to have a little bit of a rough go with it, but that said, if you do get Tyler Mahle, he's doing for a little bit of regression as well, as Mahle's been pitching out of his skull this season, a 2.02 ERA. Fielding independent is quite a bit higher, though, as that fielding independent is a 3.23, only 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 3.5 walks per 9. Well, he's done a good job of keeping the ball in the yard. 3 home runs allowed over the course of 13 starts. So if you do get Tyler Mahle going against Trevor Williams, minus 116 or less looking at the Rangers, plus 118 or higher the Nationals, and then 8 or less looking at the over 8.5 or higher the under. If you do not get Tyler Mahle and you get a bullpen game, most likely the Nationals being a very slight favorite, and I would take that up to an 8.5 or less to the over, 9 or higher to the under. We're at things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. It is the Chicago Cubs on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Captain Jack Flaherty is on the bump for the Tigers, and Cade Horton, here's a who, is on the bump for the Cubs. Cubs do find themselves anywhere between plus 118 to plus 123 dogs, minus 133 to minus 144. That number on Detroit. 8.5 is the total, under is minus 120, the over is even. I set my money line price at a minus 138 on the Tigers, so if we could get like a minus 135 or so, I'm going to be willing to dive in there with Jack Flaherty. He's been giving up a lot of the deep ball, but he's also been able to do a good job of being able to get those swings and misses as well. For Captain Jack Flaherty, a little bit north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, 372 ERA, 395 fielding independent, but really coming into his own. 2 runs or fewer allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts, so I like what he's been able to provide there. And for Flaherty, he's been pretty solid in terms of not allowing a lot of walks as well. 1 walk or fewer allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Now for Cade Horton, a little bit of a young gun guy who began his career over at Oklahoma. He was a first-round pick back in the day a few seasons ago, and he's been presentable in his first few starts. He's given up 3 runs in 3 out of his first 5 sort of appearances, and a few of those runs were unearned runs. Right now, 3.51 ERA, 4.44 fielding appearance. You have to really find his swing and miss stuff, and even at the minor league level, it sounded like he was getting a bunch of strikeouts, 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Command has been good, a little bit less than 2 walks per 9 innings, and what helps him out greatly is that this Cubs bullpen has been around into form. They were a little bit rough to begin the season. They're in the top half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA because of guys that they weren't even on the roster towards the back of last year, and some of these guys weren't even on the roster until the beginning part of this year as well. Like Drew Pomeranz has yet to give up an earned run in 16 appearances. Daniel Palencia, sub-2 ERA. Brad Keller, it looked like his career was done so. He's giving you a sub-250 ERA. Ryan Brazier is coming off the injured list. That's going to provide some help. Now, Ryan Presley has been a disaster, north of a 4 ERA, but he's been a little bit better recently. And for the Detroit Tigers, you date it back to the All-Star break of the 2024 campaign. Number 1 team in terms of bullpen ERA. When you remember bullpen madness from last year, you've got so many guys that you're able to utilize for 1 inning, multiple innings. They've got a lot of versatility. Will Vest, Tommy Canley, Brant Herter, Brandon Hennefy, Chase Lee, all these guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. And for the Tigers, the difference for them this year has been the lineup really being able to step up. They're a top 4 team in the American League in terms of runs per game with a trio of guys: Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, all between 13 and 15 home runs. You've got a guy in Carpenter who's been able to hit about a 265. Riley Green has been able to give you about a 325 on base. Torkelson is only hitting about a 230, but 340 on base, that's passable. And these guys are having the opportunity to be able to hit with men on base because you do have Javi Baez, who's been able to hit about a 275. Dylan Dingler is hitting about a 290. Gleyber Torres, 380 on base. You've had Justin Henry Malloy be a little bit rough with regards to his average, but even he's been able to give you about a 350 on base. Not a team that's swiping a lot of bags. The Detroit Tigers are right there at the bottom in terms of stolen bases, but you know what? They're doing a nice job mixing and matching. I do think that they get to Cade Horton, and I do think that Horton, well, he's going to be hearing a who and experiences a little bit of regression. So I told it at 8.6. I like the over, and for the Tigers, willing to lay up to a minus 137 on that money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to our good friend Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day on this podcast, regular season and off season, so I'll be back with you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Hey y'all, life's journey is filled with change, growth, and exciting new chapters. Whether you're welcoming a new family member, stepping into a new city, or chasing after your biggest dreams, you need a ride that's built with more space for the grand challenges ahead. The Toyota Grand Highlander is made for those who embrace every twist and turn. With advanced safety features, innovative tech, and a bold, sophisticated design, it's the SUV that adapts with you with room to spare. This spacious beauty seats up to 8, gives you up to 97.5 cubic feet of cargo space, and has a diverse engine lineup, available in gas or hybrid options, including the powerful 362 horsepower Hybrid Max. Plus, available all-wheel drive means you'll have confidence no matter where life takes you. Ready to take on your dreams? The Grand Highlander is more than a vehicle. It's your partner in embracing all life throws at you. From daily routines to unexpected adventures, it's up for every grand challenge. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
For more than 50 years, National University has been a military-friendly, yellow-ribbon school that understands the importance of honor and commitment. With 4 and 8-week classes available, year-round enrollment, and more than 190 programs to choose from, we help veterans just like you define the next chapter of their careers. Learn more at nu.edu. That's nu.edu.